Ian McDonald, a leader in the Deliotte Saskatoon office with a focus on food and agriculture. Born into a grain farming family here in Saskatchewan where my brothers continue the family farming tradition.
I'm Tina Beaudry, and my family moved to Saskatchewan back when I was in grade 4. This has been my home since that time. It's a place where I have had incredible opportunities professionally and personally.
And now fortunate to be with Deliotte in food and agribusiness.
Deliotte has been in this province for a long period of time.
We've been here basically from the start. It feels good to know we've been in the province and part of the local community for over 100 years.
We have a practice that has an incredibly wide and deep bench across human capital, across financial advisory, across digital and tech, so we can bring together a holistic approach to some of the major challenges that the world and Saskatchewan are trying to face. Saskatchewan can lead the way in terms of protecting our agricultural sector with respect to cybersecurity. As we are evolving in terms of ag tech and digital farming and agricultural platforms, we have the opportunity to build in cybersecurity at the front end. What we don't want to see is to have our cybersecurity framework regulated from outside of the sector. What we do want to see is farmers and producers and local governments coming up with ways to make sure our data is secure with that common sense approach that Saskatchewan is really known for.
Here in Saskatchewan, we're fortunate to have many sectors that are doing really well. We have the food, the fuel, and the fertilizer the world needs right now. In 2023, we had exports of $49 billion, and of those, $35 billion were related to food, fuel, and fertilizer. Part of purpose at Deliotte is to make an impact that matters. And what we're doing with food and fertilizer here in the province, we're helping to feed the world. And through what we're doing with carbon-free nuclear energy here in the province, we're helping with the energy transition around the world.
Saskatchewan has always been innovative, but what we can do today is to leverage the ecosystem that is already in place to really amplify that and solve some of the world's biggest challenges.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Canada's Farm Show. Welcome to Launchpad presented by Deliotte. My name is Iryna Legka. I am a partner with Deliotte in our human capital area, and I help our clients every day transform their businesses and elevate their workforce. I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker and an exciting presentation presented by Farm Credit Canada. As technology continues to advance farming, more and more producers are making data-driven decisions from everyday crop planning to managing inventory. However, where do you start when it comes to digitizing records and managing your data more deliberately? Bryan Prystupa from Farm Credit AgExpert is here today to share with you how digitizing farm records and yield projections can also help you track and optimize profitability, and also can be used to estimate your farm's sustainability footprint. Without further ado, please join me welcoming Bryan Prystupa to the stage.
Good morning. Thank you for that very generous introduction, Iryna, my longtime friend there. Nice familiar face to start the day here. Big thank you to Canada's Farm Show for once again having AgExpert out here to share the stage with some of the industry's fellow experts and leaders as well. And finally, this new Launchpad looks great. The show has been awesome. I am a big fan of the dates being moved to March as well. So big kudos to the show for this renewed vision of Canada's Farm Show. And sorry, where are my manners? Thank you to all of you for making it out first thing this morning as well to talk sustainability and digitization. What can you expect in the next half hour or so? Admittedly, slightly less exciting than the Jelly Roll concert the other night, or maybe even the Pats game last night, but still a good lineup in my humble opinion. We'll start with a little refresh of who AgExpert is. I'll then dig into this concept of how sustainability isn't new, the value and the gaps of today's digital tools, and finally the opportunities AgExpert sees with everybody's favorite S word, If I do my job right, I'm hoping by the end you'll have more confidence in the ag tech tools that are trying to support a path forward with the value that sustainability-related solutions can provide. So let's get into it. Who is AgExpert? If you have heard our leader and fellow farmer of the area, Darcy Haroff, speak before, you would have heard him say AgExpert has historically taken care of the unsexy part of digital agriculture. What does that even mean? We are hell-bent on taking down our biggest competition, the Hilroy notebook that has been housing farm records for eternity. See a couple chuckles in the back, so I'm doing my job right. We are helping farmers move those records from paper and onto their devices to truly get the most out of that information. These records are foundational, and there is so much more that can be done with them in a digital format. And as an ADT certified company, you can trust our ecosystem of ADT partners that enables data sharing as well. How do we help digitize? Through AgExpert's 2 key products. On the accounting side, it is bookkeeping and financial management. Think QuickBooks, but at $399 per year, it is a lot cheaper and geared 100% towards the needs of Canadian agriculture. And the other key product is for field management. Similar to accounting, Field also has a product name that's descriptive of what it does. It is a field record-keeping tool that tracks fields, boundaries, and essentially every activity pass during the growing year, all in the name of helping our customers calculate their cost of production. How we help farmers assess production costs in season and at the end of the growing year is by helping them assign a cost on each of those fields and those passes. The outcome is to empower producers by marrying their agronomy data with their financial information, all to make more informed business decisions when they need to. And despite the theme of this presentation, while digital tools are new, that is only relative to agriculture. Some here may remember AgExpert as Settler Computer Technologies dating back to the 80s. Of whom we actually still have quite a few active customers today, which is pretty impressive. In the early 2000s, FCC acquired Settler with the growing need and value for digitizing records. They started by offering solutions to help customers digitize on desktop applications, and now fast forward to the past 7+ years, have really leveled up our cloud-based offerings. With web and mobile enablement on the forefront of our next era, our overarching use case is to help our customers enter data once in any system or program and reuse that data again, all to help solve multiple business problems. Now that we have a refresher of who AgExpert is, let's take a short trip down memory lane. Before sustainability, this was the other S word producers heard a lot. Yes, stewards of the land. While that sentiment is still acknowledged, my perception is it's being maybe shuffled in and maybe even confused with modern terminology and the many, many buzzwords that are surrounding sustainability. Those newer to the industry can sometimes make false assumptions about what sustainability is in a Canadian agricultural context. So hopefully we can have a bit of conversation about that today. I'm sure we could talk at length about that, but at the heart of it all, and what the ag techs behind the digital tools, as well as those who support agriculture, agribusiness, and agri-food need to remember, is farmers are stewards of the land. Is there any business operator, industry, or sector more adaptable than farmers? I know this is nothing new to hear, but producers are expected to feed a rapidly growing population by producing more with less inputs, less land, less cash flow, but more output. The math is tough. The math is tough to math, as we like to say. But the good news is we've been hearing more in industry saying something similar lately. We see this shared shift as progress and a win, advocating for the tough modern ask of producers. Factor in adverse weather, threading the needle with costs and profits, being caught in the middle with some fiery trade policies, then being asked to do more with less again. Canada is obviously a large, diverse country, whether it's reduced tillage, no tillage, conservation methods, and as we make our way more east, cover cropping, farmers have historically troubleshooted these issues and practices first, not because they were forced to do so. They did it so that they could feed their families, be profitable, and they just happened to be called or labeled sustainable by today's definitions. None of this is new. The takeaway here is farmers always find a way. That's why they're sustainable. That's what we admire, and that's what we need to support and complement with technology. As a side note, I couldn't resist this sustainability definition. Unprompted, top Google result in one click, Merriam-Webster literally defines sustainability with agriculture Why? I think those of us here know, because farmers have led by example in this space as long as agriculture has existed. And feel free to take a picture of this, and the next time your management practices are being questioned by someone who's never stepped foot in a field, you can whip that out and show off. Saw one picture taken. Great job. It's hard to see up here, just gonna say. What does a productive path look like going forward? We, the ag techs, need to partner with producers to build positive outcomes for all, for farmers, for those serving agriculture, and of course for future generations. My future generation kept me up all night last night, so maybe that's why I'm a little bumpy this morning, but nevertheless. We need to be in each other's corners and help problem solve together. What Merriam-Webster defines as one thing, what the actual data shows and tells us is a whole other. And that's exactly where technology comes in. How do we step into this future together and transition from a past and present so embedded in knowledge into a world now so driven by technology? Let's first look at the value of today's digital tools, then get into the gaps with where we think they need to go. And I apologize in advance if you've seen this before, but I do like to get back to the basic of basics so that we're all on the same page. What the ag techs behind the digital tools are doing is processing physical information and converting it into a digital format. This is a small example of how the console data from your equipment can process real-world activity happening in the soil and translate it digitally into some of those data points like field areas, GPS boundaries, crop varieties, nutrition maps, crop protection activities, and so forth. And again, what AgExpert is trying to do is assign a cost to each of those. And of course, downstream, all sorts of many use cases that can reuse that data as well. Digital tools are unmatched in mitigating the risks and the shortcomings of their paper records. Loss or damage is protected while shareability with others, exporting and access is basically endless. And yes, cybersecurity is of course a risk for us all in 2025. And that's exactly why the ag techs ensure they're optimizing best in-market cloud security. At least AgExpert is, and I'm fairly confident all the others are as well. One of the biggest benefits is how digital tools are trying to help enable more informed decisions. Endless examples out there, but in-season cost of production monitoring is an important one. And say, since January 20th, it's probably more important than ever. Beyond the macroeconomic issues like grain prices or commodity-based tariffs, day-to-day scenarios like fungicide applications, fixing versus replacing equipment, or not being blindsided if some land comes up, these database decisions are vital with profitability analysis. These tools help assess what's coming in and what's going out, all to help support operating as effectively as possible with data. And if experience is the best teacher, and if it has taught us anything in this space, you can't manage what you don't measure. And while decision-making can't be emphasized enough, the source of data is a big area of opportunity as well, specifically on connected data from program to program. For AgExpert, this slide explains at a very high level the values of our strategy and our beliefs when it comes to our integration partners. These are our guideposts in ensuring our partners also have a farmer-first approach. Whether it's for streamlining crop or hail insurance applications, getting inventories talking to each other, balancing the books, or informing marketing recommendations, if information exists in one program, why wouldn't we try and help our customers connect it? It's expensive for us, but definitely worth it for our customers. Digitization makes it possible to seamlessly centralize, store, cleanse, and reuse operational information again, which is a good segue into reusing this information again for measuring on-farm sustainability. There is a lot of good that comes with digital tools, but when it comes to sustainability, how might the ag techs catch up to the past? This next section will more or less be a case study on some of the work AgExpert has accomplished to demonstrate how we think ag techs can be part of the solution for producers in this space. Before we get there though, let's look at an overlooked aspect of sustainability, and that's specifically on measurement. Like any tool that adds value, we should be able to explain what it is, why it's needed, and how it's done. Even in our day-to-day lives, there are literally hundreds of examples we all encounter and likely take for granted. A very simple example, but each day when I'm driving my truck, I'm reminding whether I'm speeding or not. Why does that matter? For keeping myself and for keeping others safe. But I don't have to guess if I'm doing that because my speedometer measures it and tells me for me. At the farm, I need to know how much grain I have, and hopefully we all know why, but ultimately so that I can contract what I have. The old reliable scale is the source of truth that ensures reality is in sync with gut. And until now, agriculture hasn't had a practical sustainability speedometer or grain scale for individual farms. Outputs seem more focused further away from the farm gate versus the intel that could actually benefit farmers. We hear commodity-focused metrics or aggregate Canadian agricultural numbers, but the opportunity AgExpert is exploring and has explored was right-sizing those measurements at the farm level. When we look at sustainability, I'll share how the what and the why are there, but what was missing is the how. So to explore the how, AgExpert did what we do with any problem, and to start solving this one, we took a farmer-first approach, by farmers, with farmers, for farmers. The main outcomes we learned is how there is desire and interest for measurement, as long as it's clear what it means agronomically and or financially. In other words, what's the value for me to make more informed operational decisions as a farmer? And this wasn't learning per se, but certainly validated, is how producers use such a measurement tool as long as that information wouldn't be used against them. Completely makes sense, and again, because of AgExpert's Ag Data Transparency certification, this was easy for us to protect on behalf of our customers as they own their individual data in our platforms. And to really double down even further on this, AgExpert has even filed patents with our would-be estimator tool, ensuring how that data is collected, stored, and used all throughout the value chain is protected on behalf of farmers. For AgExpert's own self-assessment on how we can support farmers in this space, it was not only important to understand what the tool is, but what the tool is not. That started with recognizing that we are not building a carbon credit program. If a customer wants to participate in other programs, that is totally fine, and at least AgExpert measurement could give them a starting point and firsthand insights with their own data. Back to that grain scale example, sustainability is different in that there are many variances with ag data still, and the research on it is continually evolving, so it won't be a perfectly accurate model. However, it is a starting point in understanding a farm's baseline sustainability estimates, which is important. And finally, it was important to make this feature optional. If there's interest, great, and if there isn't, everyone wins, as it's not a mandatory feature for our customers. On the flip side, and looking at the value this estimator tool can bring, sustainability is complex. Even public interpretation can be complex and arguably make it more complex, but what it is and what it isn't. So we try being as objective as we can in the application by using common language, terminology, and definitions so that our customers understand basically how and why A plus B equals C when it comes to measuring something like carbon sequestration or my farm's emissions. The other non-negotiable is we needed to build a measurement tool that shows both sides of the carbon scale. Greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture are usually what make the headlines, but that's only one side of the data story. It was very important for AgExpert to also measure the carbon sequestration by crops, outputting a more representative story for farms. Another key requirement is taking a lesson that farmers have been teaching us for centuries, if not more, and that's to get the most out of a resource. To get the most out of a resource, we need to do it in a sustainable way. And by that, I mean leveraging existing data a farm might already be collecting for other purposes and reusing that data to get even more out of it to solve multiple business problems, in this case, measuring sustainability. Lastly, and perhaps most important, when AgExpert is estimating a farm sustainability footprint, all results are non-judgmental. We will not say what's good, what's bad, or otherwise. We are neutral. We are in the business of sense-making with data so our customers can make more informed decisions for their business, no different with sustainability as it is with the financials. And just so it's not all talk, here is a sneak peek of the solution available today. What we're looking at on screen is a landing page of the content consistent, I think, hopefully with what I've shared so far, but in short, this page explains the what, the why, and the how of AgExpert's sustainability estimator tool. In this count where I'm tracking all of my fields and activities, I've now opted in to get an estimate of how much carbon my farm sequestered last year in the history of all of my soil organic carbon, going as far back as 40 years, all with a few clicks. My acres, my crops, my farm location, weather, if there were any tillage or manure activities, and ultimately my yield performance all help estimate my soil carbon content. In this case, my farm sequestered nearly 2,200 tons of CO2 equivalency in 2023, which from a climate standpoint would be viewed as a positive. This farm sequestered nearly 600 more tons of carbon compared to the prior year and was a 1.5% increase. If that arrow is trending downwards, it doesn't mean my farm was emitting or losing carbon per se. It would just mean it sequestered less carbon than it did the previous year. As I previously mentioned, we are neutral and we aim to display the results as such. However, the feedback that we received from our farmer sounding board that we worked very closely with was around the interpretation of these numbers. Comparing your own farm's numbers is one thing, but for all of them, what was missing was seeing outputs like this and comparing them so that they could compare with their peers and ultimately see how they stack up to just make more sense out of the numbers. By comparing with other farms, similar crops, similar weather and similar soil types, they get validation on the impact that they've implemented for their management practices. This is the first time AgExpert has created an in-app benchmarking tool for customers that leverages anonymized and aggregated data to compare results. And again, it was something that farmers asked for, and we compare the results per acre to also help account for land size variability. And according to this graph, this farm, or the green dot, is on par with the average, with a couple similar farms above and a couple below. The bottom graph indicated what the full history of the estimated soil organic carbon was, going back nearly 40 years. Again, 1985, because that's how far back the modeling goes. And yes, if you're wondering how the model would even know this information, even if you've only been digitizing for a few years, it's based on a combination of historic weather data and simulating the fields, yields, crop rotation in your location, and a few other soil characteristics to essentially give its best guess. But like anything, garbage in, garbage out, quality in, quality out. So the more years worth of data that you do have, the more accurate these results will be. And one of my personal favorite features born out of our sustainability estimator tool is on streamlined data cleansing. As I referenced earlier, in having different and even competing tools talking to each other, a lesson we learned is the importance of helping farmers clean their data, especially for equipment data. AgExpert is at the mercy of quality data flowing in from other programs, and if it has issues, the intent of this flyout is to click through all of the suggestions to ultimately help fix that. An example could be importing the field data from JD Ops Center. Sorry to pick on JD, but if you're racing the weather, there may not be time to enter the right application details on the console, and it may never get corrected when you're in front of your computer on Ops Center. Unfortunately, that's the same information that not only gets passed to our program, but other programs that you've connected your Ops Center to as well. Fortunately, this new user flow will identify if there were any data issues that came in with fields, boundaries, or activities. We have built in the smarts to help detect that so that users can easily correct it by clicking through the suggested changes that you would see on screen. And for any of the completionists out there who can't have a red notification on your apps, this is the perfect solution for you to get that data cleaned up. We did it in the name of improving accuracy of the estimates, but it goes far beyond that and the benefits the rest of the program as well, especially as it relates to profitability. And further downstream, if a user has connected their data with other tools they're integrated with, this clean and cleansed data can be reused again there as well. But back to the estimates. And going deeper into more micro results and help inform soil organic content for users, we also show it by field and by crop. This was another request with the farmer sounding group that we worked very closely with. They found further value in understanding their soil carbon by drilling into it by field and by crop. At that level, helps them narrow scope and see the impact for specific fields or crops that maybe had weather issues or pests. Or on the other side, if there was a phenomenal yield, for example, this allows them to see what the carbon they sequestered performance was for that field. These insights are available in full history, a 10-year report, or a 5-year report. This example that we're looking at is a 5-year comparison where users can assess which fields and crops sequestered the most and which did not. We won't spend too much time on the emissions side here, but here's a summary of the net footprint for this test farm. The total amount of carbon sequestered minus CO2 emissions, as well as my nitrous oxide emissions. Estimating methane emissions is currently being built to finalize that truly full footprint picture, but that doesn't make a difference for this test farm anyway, as it doesn't have any livestock, nor does it use manure, which is important for methane emissions. Understanding the impact of how this operation performed in everyday terms, it had the equivalent of offsetting or removing 215 vehicles from the road for 1 year. And finally, for the show and tell portion, this is a quick glance at a report that summarizes all those major outputs onto one page. It shows my number of fields, acres, soil type, crop varieties, as well as all of my soil carbon data we just went through, plus a few more glimpses at the N2O emissions and nutrient usage data. And lastly, it has the smarts built in to help identify management practices that also relate to sustainability outside of those other measurement pieces. In this case, this test farm regularly soil tests, and it is reducing its tillage, so that's recognized in this report as well, kind of midway through on the right side of the page. Despite the ambiguity of what the future holds, that is a small sneak peek into how a digital tool can add present-day value by measuring past practices and weather that can account for a farm's sustainability footprint, all by reusing existing production data. I briefly mentioned this, but the last to be built is estimating methane emissions for livestock producers. This module is going to rely on a new livestock data capture for our field product, while also looking at the advanced inventory from our accounting customers are already tracking. And eventually, we would also like to tie in with some herd management tools as well to avoid that data reentry that I was speaking of earlier. And much like broadacre crops, there is another side to the sustainability story for livestock producers as well, that they can tell from their soil organic carbon from not only pasture land, but any crop production that they might do as well. So with this growing season knocking, this tool is available for producers to start getting an estimate of their farm sustainability footprint, again, accounting for their CO2, N2O, and methane emissions, and what the carbon balance is from sequestering. On our development roadmap is to help estimate future scenarios for farmers as well. In other words, this would allow them to do impact analysis on maybe certain weather events, if you're anticipating a more wet year or dry year, assess different crops, and do cost benefit of how new technology or equipment, assess new technology or equipment from a cost side of things before making any significant capital investments. So as I close out, I thought it would be insightful to consider what needs to happen, from my chair at least, in a path forward. For the ag techs behind the digital tools, we need to focus on what the problem farmers need solved is as it relates to sustainability. If we solve it with them and for them, there are endless beneficial downstream uses as well. There's a lot of good happening with usability in ag tech, and for good reason, especially usability and having programs talking to each other. I've talked a little bit about this throughout, but next time you hear the word interoperability, that's kind of what it's referring to. The more ag techs can get their programs talking to each other through secure integrations, all in the name of adding value for farmers, everyone wins. There's a lot of valuable data available in different formats. Bringing them all together is key in creating opportunities related to profitability, efficiency, and of course, sustainability. The last point kind of ties in with the first. I'll say forcing a solution, or worse, building a $10 solution to solve a $1 problem doesn't really help anyone. If farmers are collaborated with for product development, I have no doubts the right problems will be solved with these digital tools, ultimately creating those opportunities. For producers, there is comfort in tried and true processes, but if they don't include a digital aspect, we would strongly encourage you to start making that shift. Hypothetically, if you had a full 25-year history of a farm that you were either selling or buying, all the varieties that were grown, all of the rotations, all the products applied, yields, etc., all available in an easy digital format, what do you think that information would be worth to you? What's it worth up and down the value chain? Take note of your data-related problems, assess what tools are out there, and ensure its digital offering can help solve it. And finally, not to scare us too much, but data ownership is a very real thing and more top of mind than ever. Ensure you understand the data usage agreements, the data claims, and who owns that data according to these digital tools. There's a reason data is being referred to as the new oil, so make sure you understand who has the rights to that oil. Help us help you, regardless of organization or industry. Decisions are made based on the information they have. The better the information, hopefully the better the decisions. For sustainability, if you have ideas, thoughts, or concerns, share them with these digital tool providers, and especially AgExpert. And finally, with the 2 points above comes real-world data that can be used for good. By measuring their sustainability footprint, farmers can have a more prominent role in the ag narrative when it comes to sustainability because they'll have their farm's actual data to support, prove, or even advocate with. This storytelling with real-world data is critical. So regardless of modern labels, the concept of sustainability has always been core to agriculture. The tools available for farmers to measure, prove, or implement sustainability-related practices have evolved with technology. For farmers, digital tools will be vital in the next era of adaptability in agriculture. But again, we need ag tech focused on the right problems to solve. We made it. That was a lot on sustainability and digitization. So with that, just a final thank you for joining. And I think we do have a few minutes left here, so if we have time for questions, if anyone has any, I would love to try and answer them. Got to put my blinders up here. It's too early for questions. We're all a little shy right now. Once, twice sold. All right. Thank you, everybody.